This is exactly what Matty Swamp was built for. You just see this kind of news break. I already had a plan for my day, but man, I got to talk about this one. I got to jump right on this one. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time to talk about Bluepoint Games. You may be familiar with Bluepoint Games because they made the Demon's Souls remake back in 2020. Really great showing, really cool launch exclusive for the PlayStation 5, and certainly opened up your mind to all the possibilities of what Bluepoint could do as a studio. PlayStation is loaded with incredible IP. What else could they remake? Certainly my brain started to travel a little bit. Like, yo, how's Sly doing? How's Jack and Daxter doing? Like, what other stuff could we remake? Obviously, a lot of people linked Legend of Dragoon over to Bluepoint. Like, there's just a lot of cool, crazy ideas there. So let's walk a little bit down memory lane, which led us to the news today that, yeah, Sony's shutting down Bluepoint, and it's all their fault. Like, this was a totally avoidable situation, but it is a perfect example of complete and utter mismanagement, right? So after we get our hands on Demon's Souls Remake, 1 year later, we learn right here, hey, Sony's going to acquire Bluepoint Games. I see something like this and I go, yeah, you know what? Perfect fit, right? Like, this makes a lot of sense. PlayStation was close to them. They need a remake studio. Sony really benefits, like Nintendo, heavily off of nostalgia for their old IP. I've talked about this a lot on Retro Rebound, where PlayStation has defined every generation with like new IP. Like for PS4, you got your Bloodborns, your Ghost of Tsushima, right? Like you got new characters. And then of course, Aloy from Horizon. And then there were the rebirth of certain characters you knew, like Kratos. Kratos has always been a mainstay, but like PS2 was Sly, Ratchet, Jack. PS3 was like Uncharted. You get it. Like the list goes on, right? I thought Bluepoint was a really wise acquisition. Like, okay, time to bring some of these back. There were easy choices like let's remake the original Uncharted trilogy. There were also really easy choices like let's revive obscure IP. There was just a mountain of great options. Well, what did they decide to put this team on after they acquired them? But this right here, God of War multiplayer game. And no, we're not talking about God of War Ascension, which was from Sony Santa Monica. So for those who don't know, we learned through a report that Sony had cut 2 live service projects. One was at Bend Studio, who made Days Gone. The other was as you can see here, multiplayer God of War game that was being developed by Bluepoint. So they took their remake studio and put them on a multiplayer game, let alone the worst fit of all time in God of War. Like, I'm down for more God of War, but a multiplayer God of War game when we know how Ascension went, like this was our big pivot. We'll get into why Sony had such a hard-on for live service in a little bit. But MP First did dig up screenshots of what this game was. And as you'll see when we sift through the screenshots and you see the architecture, Greek-inspired. And this, obviously, when you think about this, okay, we just got ourselves an announcement of a God of War remake trilogy. And that probably means that Bluepoint may be involved in that. We did only see the mentioning of Sony Santa Monica, but we know Sony Santa Monica is working on like Egypt God of War game. There's Cory Barlog's new game as well. Like, certainly, are they handling all of this? Bluepoint's got to be involved. They already have the assets here. This feels like, I know it's not one-to-one flip, but it feels like you've got the pieces, build something else with it. But you see all these screenshots here that leaked, like they had a lot of, at least environments done, right? So that all leaks. Now we know that this is the game this team was working on. And I think that's totally on Sony for their live service push. So our hope was, all right, stupid choice, but let's get them back to basics. And by basics, I mean what they were destined to do, which is remaking stuff. Like they handled Shadow of the Colossus, no problem. Like, again, their fate was written in the stars. This really was an easy win. Why it went this way is like exactly why people such as myself despise live service games to their very core. Funny enough, PlayStation has admitted in the past that their live service shift is not going entirely smooth, but they're planning to learn from their mistakes here. This was in a Q&A session following the company's latest financial results. One caller asked its panel of executives for an update on the current live service plan here. Lin Tao, who is going to be the star of this show here alongside Herman Holst, said that despite the negativity surrounding Sony's live service offerings thanks to issues with Concord and Marathon, she still believes live service games are worthwhile. She says last year Concord shut down and this year Marathon was postponed, so somewhat negative news has been coming out. But if we look at the past 5 years, 5 years ago live service games were almost non-existent for PlayStation. Now we have Helldivers 2, MLB The Show, Gran Turismo 7, Destiny 2 is included here, and this is 2025. I was like, really? Wow. So we have these 4 live services contributing to sales and profits in a stable manner. This, again, is something that PlayStation really wants. This is why you're going to keep getting your Concords, your Horizons, Hunter Gathering, because this is just what they want for their business. They said as much when talking about a recent marathon playtest, which if you watched our marathon video here on Matty Slob, and by the way, shout out to the comments for that video, like very good, educated takes and kind of helping me right the ship on how I should really feel about marathon. So I appreciate everyone's feedback on that video. But in reading this article from that marathon video, this immediately popped into my mind because I made a joke about some of Lin Tao's comments here. Tao had previously told investors that Sony was fully dedicated to launching Marathon within the current fiscal year, and then she also talked about the importance of having a live service portfolio. What is most important for us is that live service is recurring revenue, she said. If it becomes a hit, then for years it can bring in revenue. If it doesn't become a hit, then no revenue. It's like, whoa, that's brilliant. So then she continues on, if it's going to give us constant amount of revenue every year, that's the merit of having a hit live service. It's not that we want to have too many of them. That's not what we want to have. So the ideal is called AAA, and live service games would be integrated into our portfolio. So despite saying here that like, hey, we already have 4 live service games that are helping us out in a stable manner, Marathon could add to that. And I originally was of the mindset of they want like just one. Like one of what my co-host on Defining Duke, Lord Cognito, calls the Sinister Six, your Fortnites, Apex Legends, like the big titans that just gobble up players and money every single week. That's what I thought maybe they ended up wanting to go for, and that was it. But now that they kind of address, hey, we have a bunch of live service successes here, I feel like it's never going to be enough because it's just such easy money if it works out. And that's why for all the projects that fail, they just need one to work out and they'll make their money back. So that gets us to this point here, right? We know they got the hard on for the live service. They absolutely screw Bluepoint Games. And that results in this report here from Jason Schreier of Bloomberg, where they have the headline, Sony shuts down video game studio Bluepoint. It's a very simple write-up. Sony is shutting down Bluepoint, the developers of remakes such as Demon's Souls. Roughly 70 employees will lose their jobs amid the studio closure, a PlayStation spokesperson said, writing in a statement, the decision was made following a recent business review. Bluepoint will officially shutter next month. So a lot of people, including friends I was talking to, were thinking like, okay, well, hear me out. Like God of War remake trilogy just got announced. Like we also saw PlayStation was absorbing Bungie developers into their fold. Like maybe while the studio's going away, Sony Santa Monica can take them on. And like they were just working with God of War. Like I get it. This match made a lot of sense. And I thought, okay, if you're going to preserve them at all and not just have people lose their job, great. But the fact that we had a greenlit live service God of War game, which absorbed a team's time that they're not built to make that stuff. And then that project was naturally canceled because it was the most obvious flop in all of history. Like not even if it got announced and we got to see it, everyone would be like, why is Bluepoint working on this? It's a dumb choice. But I'm telling you, dude, this era of Jim Ryan and Herman Hulst greenlit live service stuff will be studied for a while because PlayStation is a really great creator of incredible, memorable games. And they are absolutely the stain on that history. They mark what is everything wrong with PlayStation nowadays. The director's cuts, the nickel and diming. I'm not saying PlayStation was perfect by any means, but like they are what was wrong with this push for this generation. Let's run it back on some sequels, nice and safe. And then on top of that, some god-awful calls on live service that have doomed studios. What does this mean for Bend? How is Media Molecule still in business after Dreams? Not that I want these companies to go, but this is the exact conversation we had with Xbox. Some of these companies get shafted and it makes no sense, especially when the head count was 70 people. Like, I'm not out here pocket watching PlayStation to the point where I'm like, well, couldn't you keep it going? You make enough money. But if you're telling me that, like, I get it, they want live service, so this doesn't matter at the end of the day to them. But, like, if you're telling me people's money for, like, a Crash Bandicoot remake, for an obscure game, like a Legend of Dragoon remake, if people's money wasn't good for a Metal Gear Solid 1 remake, like, you're telling me people wouldn't show out and give you millions and millions of dollars for that it was not worth keeping this team around at all, and that because they couldn't cut it on a God of War live service game, and that, as written here, following the live service game being canceled, they said it was canceled, and PlayStation at the time said that Bluepoint was determining the studio's next project. So they never decided, and that's what led to their closure. And if that does fall to Bluepoint again, I'm like, what was the rocket science behind figuring out what to work on? There's so many great options, and I just feel PlayStation's leadership put this team, from my point of view as a consumer, in a horrible, horrible spot, man. You're putting a team that has put out some great remakes and had many more in front of them. They were built to do this. You put them into a live service game, and now they're gone. That's unbelievable. And it's only like 5 years after they bought them. So literally what happened was, look again, PlayStation bought them after Demon's Souls remake, 2021. We haven't seen them since. They put them on this God of War multiplayer game, and then they shut them down. Let that sink in. That's unbelievable to me. I don't know, man. I don't know what's going on with this industry at times. Like, there are choices I see where I go, okay, like, Perfect Dark, development for a long while, not much to show for it, but like, there's the prestige of it. There's the prestige of keeping a company like The Initiative around for Xbox because it was your own baby. That was your own studio, right? Where I just feel like these companies care about now, like right now, and they don't care about legacy or what this can build into, or, well, we wasted 5 years on this stuff, so what does it matter? It's like, yeah, they wasted 5 years because you put a single player remake studio on a live service game. And we've seen studios built for live service crumble under the weight, man. So it just frustrates me. This does not need to happen. But I think these types of teams have their places in this industry, right? I think having a team dedicated, like, I'm not all about every game being remade, but I do think having a team that's like, hey, we've cut our teeth on remaking and remastering, like, it has a place. People love legacy. People love nostalgia. People love reimaginings. And PlayStation had a mountain of IP. Like, again, when we saw this news broke, no one questioned it. It totally explained itself. By the way, on Sony's own page here, Austin-based powerhouse studio known for highly acclaimed remakes and remasters joins PlayStation Studios. And then you put them on this, and then you shut them down. Brilliant work. Unbelievable. Anyway, had to get it off my chest, man. I saw this and was like, you got to be kidding me. Such an avoidable outcome. Very, very disappointing. So let me know what you're thinking down below. Thanks for slopping on by. I'll catch you in the next one, y'all. Peace out.